All right, everybody, welcome back to another video. I am your host, Cobra Trading. I get questions all of the time about Cobra. How do you draw your trend lines? Do you connect the bodies? Do you connect the wicks? How do you draw these things? I've put this video off for way too long, so we're gonna get into that right now. If this is your first time watching the channel, thank you very much. Welcome. Make sure that you smash that like and subscribe button right down below for updates for all of my videos. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Thank you for all of the love and support. Before we take a look at the charts, I do want to mention that I am doing a $100 giveaway. I'm going to make the announcement of the winner next week. So if you haven't done that yet, check out the information in the description down below for information on how to enter. With all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. Real quick before we begin, I just want to explain one thing. Trend lines are very subjective, and when it comes to drawing trend lines, if you're using wicks, then always use the wicks. If you're going to draw them from the candle bodies, make sure that you're always using the candle bodies. Now, the reason for that is just straight up consistency. You want to be consistent with the way that you draw these, because if you change from drawing them to the wicks versus changing them to draw from the bodies, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up drawing the trend lines to conform to your bias. And that's what you're trying to avoid. Obviously, you want to draw them on the time frame that makes the most sense to you. So if you don't trade on the 4-hour or the daily chart, it doesn't really make too much sense to be drawing your trend lines that you're going to be trading from on those higher time frames if you trade on the 1-hour chart. Just right now, looking at this price action that we have on Bitcoin, you can see that right now the trend is up, right? So there's a couple ways to go about drawing trend lines. One of them is using this parallel channel tool. So this is an okay tool to be using for trend lines because it automatically connects the lines and automatically extends them, right? So this can be helpful because it's always going to be a perfect parallel channel and it draws that median line for you. That's always a good thing to have, right? But for the sake of example in this video, I'm not going to be using this tool too much, and I'm going to explain to you the reason why. While that tool is very nice and it keeps the channel perfectly straight, not all trend lines that you're going to be drawing are going to be a perfect parallel channel, right? So that gets more into another video that I'll save for later in terms of patterns and stuff like that. When you start seeing your trend line start forming certain patterns like triangles or pennants and things like that. So that's going to be a topic for another video. Today, we're just going to focus on drawing the actual trend lines themselves. When I mentioned before that this is subjective, the reason why that is because some people draw them from the bodies and some people draw them from the wicks. I like to personally be drawing them from the wicks, and I like to get as many touches in as I can. You want a minimum of 2 touches for the trend line. Now, obviously, this price action has already occurred, right? So let's go back in time a little bit and look at where I would have drawn my trend lines before any of this price action over here had happened. So none of that price action has happened yet, okay? It's the 23rd or so of September or August, and we need to draw some trend lines because it's looking like our trend is up right now. So what do? Well, the very first thing that we're going to do is move this off the screen, and we're going to take our line tool. Well, we need to identify what the trend is with the price action. So we've been seeing that the price has been moving up and we've been getting these higher lows in price. So to begin, what we do is we draw one trend line. And what you need to do is it's never going to be perfect the first time you draw it. You're kind of going to have to shift this around a little bit, right? So if I move this to the bottom wick, this is where we had a really strong pivot point, right? We had this really massive downtrend, and then boom, we shot right out of here, and we had a very large amount of bullish momentum and volume coming into the market, and we had a big reaction here. This is called a pivot point. So when you have a really big pivot point like this, that's where you normally want to start with your trend line, so that way you can see where the areas of support and resistance are going to lie. So when I said you want at least 2 touches on your trend line, right? If we draw it like this, we've got a whole bunch of touches here, right? We've got 1 where we started, we've got 2, we've got 3, 4, and 5 right up here. So that's 5 touches for this trend line. Now, did we have a little throw over here? Yes, that's absolutely possible. And what you can do is you can make ranges on your trend lines. You can copy and paste this trend line a little bit, and you can move this down to identify that that's the lower part of your range. We've got our defined lower range of our trend here. This is the bottom of the range for our ascending channel that we're drawing. Now, let's go ahead and define our top range. So now we've got a couple wicks up here, a couple wicks up here. We've got some more wicks up here. So generally that means that that's where the area of resistance is going to be. Now, notice that when I just drew this out the first time, this is not completely parallel to what I drew down here. Now, if we wanted to do that, all I have to do is take one of these trend lines, copy and paste it, and move it up here, right? Easy. Okay. So now I've got a parallel trend line, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches here as well. Okay. So that totally works. And that would be your channel. So we've got all of these wicks to the top side, showing that there's a lot of selling pressure. If you don't know your candlesticks or your candlestick formations, check out the video in the description below. But anyway, so we've got 5 touches here, right? And we've defined our range. Where the parallel channel tool would have come in handy is because it would have put a perfect median line all the way through this. So if we kind of try to double down on this and kind of copy our trend line here, you can see that that's where our median line would be here. So there is some notable price action of support and resistance with this median line, which is why the parallel channel is helpful. But here's the thing with that. You would have missed identifying a major aspect of this uptrend that you would have otherwise had not seen if you used the parallel channel tool. And that is this formation, right? You want to conform your trend line to get as many touches as possible. Well, if you do that, your trend line shifts, right? And now we've got a couple wicks to the upside and we have way more touches because we're including these candles, right? This actually ends up forming a pattern, and we'll get more into these patterns and what they mean into a later video. But as kind of a precursor to that, this pattern is what's known as a rising wedge. We're getting significantly higher highs and we're getting significantly higher lows. But what's happening is our trend lines are starting to constrict, right? Towards the end of this channel that we drew, they're starting to constrict and get smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, what happens after that? When that happens, normally you end up seeing something like this, where eventually the price will end up breaking down. And that's exactly what happened here. So we had this huge uptrend and we had this massive rising wedge where we were squeezing all the price action. And then this ended up happening where we had a significant breakdown. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. That's all I got for you today. In our next video, I'm going to do another tutorial and we will get to all of the different patterns and stuff like that, how you can identify those using trend lines. And we're just going to keep building on this education, right, to make you guys a better trader. So let me know in the comments down below, how do you like this video? Let me know what I can do better and what videos you'd like to see coming up next. Make sure that you check the description for ways to enter my $100 giveaway, which I'm going to announce the winner of after Labor Day weekend. And make sure that you're also following me on my Twitter for 90-second Bitcoin updates and all of my extra analysis and charts that I do there. With all that said, guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay tuned for next time. And until then, happy trading.